Guys, listen. When things seem horrible, and the only kinds of change that is expected from Congress is basically getting fucked over if you're working class, you can always count on them to deliver more lethal weapons to Israel in the process. Okay, we do need to give Israel more. We do need to give them B-2 bombers. Why shouldn't they have it? What are you, an anti-Semite? Bet you regret not voting for Kamala now, buddy. No. The girl boss will be different. She'll be given more B-2s. Okay, chill.
Like the biggest bill of its kind ever signed, and it's going to make this country into a rocket ship.
At what point will we just give Israel nukes? Oh, buddy, let me tell you. little too late for that. You're late by decades on that one, okay? Boy, do I have news for you. They already got them, all right? They already got them.
It's going to be really good.
We're going to take you through some of the highlights of this bill. They extended basically everything that was scheduled to expire as far as the 2017 tax cuts. Back then, in President Trump's first term, Congress set all these tax cuts to expire at the end of 2025. Republicans really viewed those tax cuts as a huge success, and they made it a priority to remove that expiration date. The child tax credit has been $2,000. This bill will make it $2,200 and index it to inflation. The estate tax, they increased the exemption, so that's the per person amount that you don't have to pay estate taxes on, to $15 million per person. Republicans really disfavored electric vehicles and clean energy tax credits. And now anything purchased after September 30th is not eligible for those credits. On clean energy, the wind and solar in particular are taking a hit in this bill. They're going to be phased out faster. The state and local tax deduction has been capped at $10,000 since 2017. There was a block of Republicans from New York, New Jersey, California in the House who wouldn't vote for this bill without a much higher cap. What they got was $40,000. It's a pretty significant amount. That starts phasing down once income reaches $500,000. This bill also includes some new items, particularly ones that President Trump campaigned on last year when he was running for a second term. One is no tax on tips, up to a $25,000 deduction for tipped workers. Again, you're still going to pay payroll taxes on those, similar amounts for overtime pay. It's removing income taxes on the sort of half part of time and a half. So you'd still pay taxes on straight time, but then the additional half increment you wouldn't necessarily pay income tax on, you would get a deduction. On interest for domestically produced cars, you'd be able to deduct thousands of dollars in interest. The fourth is a deduction for seniors. So the president talks about this bill making it so there's no tax on Social Security. That is not in fact the case. There's an approximation of that, an attempt to do something like that. It's a $6,000 per person deduction for people ages 65 and up. Generally, these provisions will all kick in for tax year 2025. They are temporary. They go from 2025 through 2028.
Bro, I was at work as a scientist, and one of my colleagues, a research technician, was saying the left is pro-war and the right is anti-war. And my professor told me he believes the Jews control the NIH in America, where he worked for a decade. We are so Omega Cook, bro. What do you even do? Wait, he thinks the Jews control NIH in America? Is this before or after Donald Trump decided that if you say something anti-Israel, then your NIH grants will be revoked? 'Cause I don't think that it was the Jews that asked for that. It was the Trump administration that demanded that. Don't understand that at all. How can you be a Trump supporter and then look at Donald Trump literally going, I mean, first of all, how can you be a Trump supporter and then be like, oh, Trump is anti-war, the Dems are pro-war? I get why people think the Dems are pro-war because they are pro-war. They say it all the time. And Trump says he's anti-war, but at least he's like showing you that he's pro-war. Also, simultaneously, if you're a Trump supporter, you're like, you see him revoking NIH grants from colleges that don't actually sign a loyalty pledge to Israel. What's going on there? Like, what? I don't understand. Are you pro-Trump? Like, but Trump is also under like Jewish control by your estimation at that point. Like, it's like a very confusing. It's a very confusing position to arrive at. According to this bill, it's not even building something for other people. It's just transferring ours to them. Although the bill does suggest we should construct specialized runways in Israel so they can use them. The Bipartisan Bunker Buster Act will help ensure Iran can never threaten the U.S., Israel, or our allies with a nuclear weapon. Give the president the authority to transfer the massive ordnance penetrator bomb or bunker buster and the aircraft necessary to carry it if Iran is on the cusp of developing a weapon, and preserve Israel's qualitative military edge in the region while maintaining the capacity to deter Iran. I also don't understand how you can be a scientist of any capacity and go through the necessary hours of research, book reading, scientific experiments, okay, or whatever the fuck scientists do, and then still be a Trump supporter. It makes no sense. the entire administration is anti-science. How are you, like, how do you arrive at this? How do you arrive at this incredibly contradictory position? It doesn't make any sense. Like, at a certain point, after your 8th conversation with a Trump supporter, or after your 8th article that you read about Donald Trump, you got to be like, okay, maybe this guy's not really on board with science in general. Book smarts, but zero common sense. But I just don't understand, because, like, dude, it is a real chickens for KFC moment. My point is that it literally is against their own immediate interest. It's against their class interest. What do you think? Fucking people that are working at colleges that are tasked with doing research are fucking raking in the big bucks? Is that what you think is going on? They certainly are not. The level of stupidity demonstrated there is like that one Persian guy that we looked at yesterday who was like, I love Donald Trump, even though he tried to deport and is in the process of deporting my Iranian wife. I don't regret voting for Trump. Like, that's what you're doing at that point. Because this guy is directing away your money. Okay, he's taking away your income. Anyway, he said he's anti-Trump. And I do brain science. After he said he believed it before too, because the heads are apparently Jewish, he said he's Italian. Might explain it or make it more confusing. What? I watched this guy named Genetically Modified Skeptic, and he made a video about this. Turns out many famous / somewhat famous atheists and scientists hate trans people, so they take the side of Trump. Explain me doctors claiming anti-COVID. It's all cognitive dissident. But there's not that many of them, is my point. I guess there's not that many fucking scientists when you think about it too. We're just like we're lasering in on an anecdote.
We'll see how they go. We'll see who wins the 2026 and 2028 elections and how eager they are to continue those policies. Republicans were looking for ways to get more money for their priorities. So they were able to say, okay, well, we'll just take the agencies we like and favor and that Trump wants more money for: Customs and Border Protection, Homeland Security, the Defense Department, missile defense, those kinds of things, and shipbuilding, and just plus those up and add up several $100 billion that are going to all of those things. One open question is what happens with the base levels of funding for those agencies, whether this Congress or future Congresses, particularly if Democrats have some more power, start carving back some of the annual money for those agencies.
This dangerous and extreme Republican budget will result in Americans losing their lives.
And the biggest point of contention is Medicaid, which is the federal state health insurance program largely for low-income people.
My extremely intelligent college grad dad supports Trump because he's that fucking racist. He hates immigrants that much. That's the type of shit that just, fucks me up a little bit. Like, how can you be like a well-read individual and be pro-Trump is a genuine question that I have. Like, you don't have to be pro-Democrat, you know what I mean? But like, being pro-Trump is something far beyond, There are a fuck ton of people who are not pro-Democrat, but they're certainly anti-Trump, you know what I mean? Or there are a fuck ton of people who are who aren't pro-Democrat, but are at least like not pro-Trump. Okay, I'm not even talking about like anti-Trump, but at least you're not pro-Trump. It's just always shocking. Like, I've said this I used to say this so much more frequently, but yeah, if you're making like $300,000 a year or more, it's understandable why you would always align with the Republican Party unconditionally. Okay, if you're making a fuck ton of money, you want more tax breaks. And the Republican Party will guarantee it for you. They will. The Democrats will also play ball usually, but like at least the Republicans, they are actively on your side. Okay. And then if you're not making that kind of money, then there is the Christian nationalist component to it, where people are just like, I'm poor, but I really want like a Christian caliphate in America, right? I want like an evangelical Protestant caliphate that is white, and I don't care how cruel we get to make that happen, right? Like, there are people like that as well. And at least Trump gives them something, right? Trump gives the wealthy tax cuts and keeps their tax cuts and will usually not disrupt their way of their way of existing, with some exceptions. When they turn around and fucking, I don't know, try to implode global trade every now and then, they fuck people over, right? Stop saying caliphate is a pejorative. Oh, shut up. I'm Turkish, okay? We had it. for centuries. I will use whatever I want. I will use whatever term I want as a pejorative. I think we've moved past the point of caliphate's chatter. Come on. Anyway, my point is, like, if you're not in either of those categories, like, it doesn't make sense that you'd be fucking pro-Trump. It just doesn't make sense at all. And I don't mean like that means you have to be pro-Democrat, or that doesn't even mean you have to be anti-Trump across the board. It's just shocking to me that there.
One of the things they did is create work requirements. So able-bodied people will have to start looking for work or having work in order to be able to get Medicaid. Work requirements, among the biggest single items saving money in this bill. That's about $326 billion through 2034. You also see more frequent eligibility checks in Medicaid. And there are also changes to premium tax credits under the Affordable Care Act. All those changes will mean that by 2034, 11 million people will not have health insurance compared to what would happen if Congress did nothing here.
Not possible for Arabia to be united without a caliphate? Are you controlled opposition? I guess I am controlled opposition. Not even controlled. I think that a restoration of the caliphate as a project is fucking.
We're concerned about the effect of that on the providers. And so to deal with the changes they created, there's a $50 billion rural healthcare fund.
Bill represents in the text of this bill the largest and greatest loss of healthcare in American history.
Democrats have highlighted in this bill is really the contrast between the effects on low-income people who are receiving benefits from Medicaid and nutrition assistance, and the tax cuts that go to some extent to tipped workers, but a lot of the money is certainly going to very high income people. So if Democrats win the House majority next year, you may see them try to delay or change those tax cuts.
It's going to add much more to the debt. And so I think without question, this is not a fiscally conservative bill.
This bill absolutely increases the deficit. The way that Congress looks at this generally is what happens to deficits over the next 10 years through 2034 if compared to a scenario where Congress does nothing. That's about $3.4 trillion of course that would happen anyway. Republicans have sort of the 21 trillion or so in budget deficits that would happen anyway. Republicans have sort of two very different arguments about why they think that's overstated. One, and this is coming from the Senate, they say, okay, look, let's just assume that the tax cuts were going to be extended anyway. That's 3.8 trillion. And so really, if you look at it that way, this is reducing deficits by 400 billion. The other way that House Republicans look at it is they say economic growth. They argue that the tax cuts plus other Trump policies, whether it's deregulation, energy production, those kinds of things, are going to speed up economic growth and throw off more tax revenue and therefore pay for a large chunk of this bill. Economists outside of the White House are very concerned about the drag of budget deficits on the economy, and they're worried about higher interest rates and a growing pile of debt sort of counteracting that growth effect.
Renewable energy, like
the motion is the caliphate. Oh, there's so many people asking me. The caliphate is basically like the Vatican, okay? A singular force that controls the entirety of the Islamic world. That's it. It's like what the Vatican is for Catholic. And it used to exist, and it was controlled by the Ottoman Empire, and it's gone now. Not even close. Okay. The caliph is like the emperor and pope combined. Not even necessary. It can be separate, I guess. Okay. Yeah, it is going to exist in that is so wrong, it's crazy. How much would the 50 billion relieve the Medicaid cuts for rural hospitals? It's not going to make up for the severe cuts. For the record, let's fucking go. ICE morale soars after big beautiful bill passes.
Independence Day, I want to talk about just how significant the largest infusion of border resources we are getting in the big beautiful bill. Every border official I've ever talked to said there's three things you need to secure our nation: infrastructure, manpower, and technology. Let's break down the $100 billion, a huge $46.5 billion for.
Only Sunnis believe in the caliphate, but the caliph is just a political leader, whereas the pope is the vicegerent of God on earth. Shias don't believe in a caliphate. They believe in the imamate, and their imams are much more akin to the role of a pope.
Border wall construction upgrades and the detection technology. While the numbers are lower than they've ever been, the wall is what works. Every Border Patrol official has told me that, and they're going to continue to build it. Now, you've also got to talk about why so many people were released under the Biden years. It's because they ran out of places to hold them. They told us we have nowhere to house them, so we have to release them. Well, we're talking about $45 billion for single adult detention in family residential centers. That's going to be for temporary places.
Dude, it's so crazy to live through the development of the neo-Nazi movement of this century, or no, not this century, the second neo-Nazi development of this century. Like, it's crazy. This is literally like if during Nazi Germany and the Nazi rise to power, you had like media and the press writing writing about how wonderful it is that we are doing expenditures on like new developments of concentration camps. It's so strange to watch this happen in real time and have people celebrate it.
Kind of like Alcatraz, we hear, where as ICE arrests the criminal migrant illegal aliens into the interior of the country, they'll have a place to put them as they make their way out of the country. You've got nearly $30 billion for hiring, training, and retention of ICE officers, technology, and transport. They are at a level now where if they get this resources, they can really move and ultimately get the more than 400,000 criminal illegal aliens we know are in our country. Finally, just over $4 billion for the hiring and training for Border Patrol agents and others. While numbers are down on that southern border, we still need people to walk the line there. $100 billion total. So to discuss it, nobody better than the acting ICE director, Todd Lyons. Mr. Director, happy 4th of July. Thank you for taking time. And I will just start, Todd, with getting your perspective on how significant this bill is and these resources will be for ICE.
Hey, Griff, thanks for having me. Yeah, and happy 4th of July to you and everybody on the staff. No, it's going to be great. I mean, when you think about how depleted ICE has been over the past 4 years, they last administration totally minimized the work the men and women of ICE do every day. It really cut our resources. So you're seeing now, under this administration, President Trump has made a promise.
It's not even true, by the way. I wish that was true. Every day I close my eyes and dream of a Democratic Party that the Republicans present being the reality. I wish that was the case. Fuck, man. Oh, they make it seem like Democrats are actively defending the working class. Democrats are actively underfunding ICE. They're like standing in opposition to ICE. Like, I wish, dude. I wish that was the case.
Promise to the American people to make America safe again. And a key part of that is his immigration strategy. And what Secretary Noem has done with helping craft this bill, it's been amazing. Just like you said, the detention space alone is going to be huge for us. We saw so many individuals let into the country last time without due proper vetting. We know we have so many known gotaways, known suspected terrorists. This is going to give us the tools and resources now to have the infrastructure in place to go ahead and ensure that ICE is going out and being that viable law enforcement partner we are and going after all these public safety threats. And the one main thing, Griff, that you pointed out is the manpower and hiring. We've lost so many good men and women because they just didn't feel like they were law enforcement officers anymore. When you're just not allowed to do your job, it's very hard.
This is the most annoying aspect of like pro-cop propaganda, is always just like talking about the fucking feelings of cops in general. It's like they literally did this in the post-BLM world where they were like, it's just so hard to be a cop. They get paid incredible wages. They get the spam overtime pay. They get literal benefits as though they're living in like a Scandinavian country. Okay. They're also completely unaccountable, impossible to fucking fire. And because they have all of that, the one thing that they don't have is respect, which is also false. They do get an endless amount of praise and respect that they don't even deserve, for the record. And yet it's still not enough. There's just like constantly, oh God, how do we make up for this, for the fact that there are people in American society that say cops are fucking lazy. And they're doing the same thing for ICE. It's just like they have everything. And of course, when you have everything,
heartbreaking. So now we're going to have the opportunity to get men and women of ICE the backup they need. We're going to be able to retain these great individuals. So it's going to be a great win for the Department of Homeland Security.
Well, Mr. Director, it seems that morale is up. Our friend and my colleague in common, Bill Malugin, getting some reaction from some of your ICE officers saying things like this. let's go. This is long overdue and will give us the resources to ramp it up and give the American people what they voted for. This ensures that ICE is the tip of the spear to make America safe again. You know, you really, and of course the smiley face emoji, and then the last one there, this administration has been fighting nonstop to give the law enforcement agents in these dangerous sanctuary communities the tools we need to complete the mission. As you talk about giving your men and women what they need, Todd, you're facing a backlash the likes of which ICE has never seen, from agents being doxxed and assaults now on your ICE officers up nearly 700%, as you already have some California cities canceling their 4th of July events today to literally have a response to protect migrants from ICE raids. You see them here, LA County, Whittier, Bell Gardens, and Cudahy as well, just out of control. What are you saying to your rank?
What do you mean, dude? You are a villain. You are literally a villain. You are talking about communities in an effort to protect themselves from these fucking masked thugs coming in and kidnapping people, are not even able to celebrate the 4th of July, and there's not really much to celebrate to begin with, where they're just like, oh, this is somehow also because they hate ICE. Like, this guy is so hopped up on racism juice that he literally just said, these communities, how dare they protect migrants? How is that a negative? Am I misunderstanding something? Like, he just straight up positioned communities protecting migrants against these unjustifiable deportation campaigns as a negative, because he knows that his audience will perceive it as such. Like, he doesn't even have to make an argument about why this is a necessity.
What are you saying to your team?
You know, like you said, assaults are up to almost 700%, and that's totally unreal, and it's unacceptable. The men and women of ICE are out there doing a law enforcement mission. Never in my career or my lifetime would I think that we'd see people attacking law enforcement officers for arresting the worst of the worst. With that, what I have to say about these events being canceled, it's ludicrous. ICE isn't going out to events and arresting and rounding people up, right? What ICE is doing, and the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security, is keeping America safe this 4th of July. So what I can tell you is, not only my agency, but all department agencies.
Yeah, totally. I feel so much safer knowing that they're just going to like random fucking car washes and kidnapping people that have been working there for, what, 20 years? So safe, dude. Yeah, we as Americans, we feel a lot safer when we have literal faceless fucking thugs that are geared up to the goddamn guild with weapons and armor running around kidnapping people. That seems like an infinitely more safe environment than not having that. Like, this isn't even just about being Latino, okay? Like being an American of like Mexican or Guatemalan or, you know, Latin American descent, Latin American background. This is just unsafe for everybody. Like, it's unsafe for everybody across the board. Who the fuck is like, oh, I feel so safe because unaccountable psychopaths are able to cover their fucking face and round people up and kidnap them and send them wherever. Have you seen how the Haitians are handling ICE? Yeah, I did. I saw mostly people talking about it. I haven't seen videos. I don't know how real that was, but I heard that like they try to do a dragnet in a Haitian neighborhood, Little Haiti in New York, and they were not able to complete that mission, it seemed, which is great. I mean, that's what every community should be doing.
Components have been out there working with state and local officials to ensure that things like the sleeper cell threats, these known or suspected terrorists that came in, aren't going to affect our 4th of July weekend, and that Americans can go out and celebrate. So what we should be focused on is what the good work that the men and women of ICE are doing to protect this nation. You know, you guys have highlighted, Griff, what we've done with some of the high-threat countries. We arrested a former sniper from one of these high-risk countries. We arrested an Iranian that was tied to Hezbollah. We are out there ensuring that these people that were let in under the last administration aren't going to do us harm on a great day like July 4th.
You know, just in the last few seconds I've got, Todd, we're doing Proud American shout-outs all day. How proud are you?
Proud American shout-outs all day.
Gang violence has been tearing apart the Caribbean nation of Haiti for months. UN officials now warning gangs control an estimated It's why hundreds of thousands have fled, like Kevinson and Shirley Jean, who 2 years ago legally immigrated to rural Panhandle, Texas.
We wanted to start a new life where we can have hope for our future kids or for our future dreams.
But now they are living in limbo. Last week, the Trump administration announced in September it would end temporary protected status for Haitians like the Jeans, which the Biden administration had extended due to gang violence. And even though the FAA has banned U.S. flights to Haiti's capital, the administration now says the environmental situation in Haiti has improved enough that it is safe for Haitian citizens to
It has not.
return home.
Return to Haiti right now is death sentence.
My biggest worry is they can kidnap me, rape me, because the gang, they don't think, I think they don't care about if you're gonna suffer.
Already, the Jeans' work permits have expired. Members of their church, many of who voted for President Trump, are helping them pay for a lawyer to seek asylum. A federal judge this week blocked the Trump administration's move to end TPS. But Tom Homan, the president's border czar, says the government will appeal the decision.
Why go after Haitian immigrants that came here legally and who have been contributing to society and who, by the way, have the support of Trump supporters who voted for the president?
And the president made a commitment we're going to enforce immigration laws in this country. And we do prioritize the worst of the worst. But that doesn't mean everybody else is off the table. If they're here in violation of immigration law and we find them, they're going to be arrested.
The Jeans just praying they can stay.
There's good people that embrace the American culture, so there has to be a way to help them find something to stay here in America.
Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News, Panhandle, Texas.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
Of course, we're celebrating the 4th of July today, but this year's celebration...
Yeah, Haiti rhetoric is transparently putting the target on black Americans next. Yeah. I mean, there already has been a target on black Americans, even with all the ICE apprehensions before the Haiti stuff, but the Haiti stuff will only accelerate the targeting of black Americans 100. But then there's also the denaturalization initiative, which will, I think, go after political dissidents too.
Will look different for years past for some families. In the Los Angeles area, many local celebrations have been canceled due to fears of ICE raids, especially in predominantly Hispanic communities. This is happening as a new memo from the Department of Justice is gaining attention. In it, the White House directs federal attorneys to focus their efforts on denaturalization cases and revoking citizenship from naturalized citizens who have committed certain crimes. By the way, denaturalization cases are nothing new. Both President Obama and President Trump during his first term expanded the use of denaturalization, using it to target immigrants who lied about their involvement in criminal groups on their immigration applications. However, the threshold to pursue denaturalization is extremely high. In 2017, under the first Trump administration, the DOJ filed just 30 denaturalization cases.
By the way, most commonly applied to people of Palestinian descent. Like this process has almost always historically been used against people of either Palestinian descent or people who are people who have exhibited pro-Palestine opinion. The denaturalization stuff. I've shown you this before. Throughout American history, they have done this. Like denaturalization is very, very limited. There is a precedent for it,
according to the Miami Herald. So, what does this new memo mean for the millions of naturalized citizens living in the United States? Joining us now is immigration attorney Kathleen Martinez. Kathleen, good to see you.
Good morning.
So first of all, there are 25 million naturalized citizens living in the U.S. right now, as you know. Should they be concerned about what this new DOJ memo is calling for?
I'm African-American / Scottish, like that matters. Only speak English, adopt it, and I keep getting stopped by ICE in my state whenever I go to Walmart. We're so fucked.
Most naturalized citizens should not be concerned about this at all. Like you said, this is not new. Multiple administrations have practiced the policy of denaturalization, and most people are not eligible.
Except that's not what the Trump administration is saying. What do you mean? Most naturalized citizens should not be worried about this at all is a wild thing to say, because when the Trump administration says this, they're not actually going to go after, like, first of all, the conversation surrounding denaturalizing criminals is already fucking insane, because that is unprecedented. Okay? And even in the past, when they have done this kind of denaturalization, in the past, they still did it on the same, within the same boundaries. It was still ridiculous. Look, Dave Weigel on denaturalization. The Ogles letter didn't come from nowhere. By the time he sent it, the administration was already expanding efforts to denaturalize immigrants. That effort, in a June 11th memo first reported by the Associated Press, focuses on immigrants accused of crimes, though those can range from terrorism to concealment of material information when seeking citizenship. In addition, on Monday, the administration announced that it had revoked a visa for the members of Bob Vylan, a British hip-hop duo, after they led a chant of death to the IDF at a UK music festival. We're trying to eradicate and stop anti-Semitism, DOJ Civil Rights Division attorney Leo Terrell explained on Fox News. Getting a visa is a privilege, and that man is a person who wants to incite violence. This extremely, extremely unique circumstance of denaturalization has almost always, at least in contemporary American history, been applied to people that are involved in like pro-Palestinian affairs and whatnot. Having said that, the Trump administration moving in this direction shows that they want to do it wholesale. They want to accelerate the process. So anyone that says, oh, this is just like most people are not eligible for this, I don't think that's the case.
So, Kathleen, at this point, you're saying that if people aren't concerned, it also has to do with how complicated this all is. Can you talk us through the process of what this actually means? How does this work?
Sure. So in order to be, I guess, subject to litigation for denaturalization, you have to either be a convicted war criminal or you have to have obtained your citizenship through fraud. And it's very, very difficult to put someone in this situation.
I was naturalized in 2008, but I've been posting hella anti-Trump stuff on IG and Discord. How worried should I be? You shouldn't be that worried at this point. Okay. I will say that this is like, if it gets to this point and the criminal justice system completely collapses on this, or the justice system completely collapses on this, it's over. It's over for the country. We are firmly in Nazi territory. It is uncharted territory as far as like how much we've accelerated the Nazi sentiment in this country. Is full fascism. We already, like I said, we're like knee deep in the waters of fascism. At that point, we'll be waist deep in the waters of fascism. There are only a few steps remaining for this to turn into like a full tilt concentration camp regime in the way that we understand it in like Nazi Germany. Because denaturalization is the tool that Nazi Germany used. Okay, denaturalization is what they did to the Jews, to the political dissidents, to the Roma population. Like this is the exact same tool. A lot of people don't realize that. They think that like they think that it was like different. They were like, oh, they just like were sent to death camps to be killed. Like, no, dude, that's not how this works. It did not start off as death camps. It started with the process of denaturalization, remigration. The claim that German Jews were stateless, like they were not real German. That came after decades of dehumanization.
The Trump administration managed to only denaturalize about 100 people last time. Biden did about 24 cases because it's so difficult. There's a process to obtaining green cards and then citizenship that typically weed these people out. It's so difficult to obtain it originally that to be able to take it away from you once you've actually naturalized is very rare.
So are there certain groups of immigrants who would be more likely to be subject for denaturalization under this memo? And I'm sort of just thinking about the resources that are required to do something like this to the scale that the president seems to be indicating he wants done. I mean, is the standard applied, for example, to people of Russian descent who have been involved in criminal proceedings the same way that it might for somebody who's from Guatemala origin?
I mean, on paper, but in reality, we're all seeing who he's, I guess, the Trump administration is targeting right now, and who I fear are people who are pro-Palestinian or have voiced their advocacy and publicly. We see what he did with student visas. I feel like.
Hasan, don't you think there might be a few key differences between Nazi Germany and Trump America now? Trump is old and is the only one on the right with this level of magnetic attraction. True. Also, many of his policies are extremely unpopular. Also true. And most Americans already are vaguely familiar with Nazi Germany. Also true. But even in a community as educated as this one, who's as locked in as this one, there are still people who are naysayers that come in and go, dude, come on, that's a bridge too far. This comparison is ridiculous. Don't you feel like you're exaggerating when it's literally slamming them in the fucking face? So if a community that is this fucking tuned in to both the historical atrocities of the Holocaust and the way that Nazi Germany evolved into the final solution, okay, at a time when we are watching a live streamed Holocaust that is taking place and people's endless capacity to turn a blind eye to that violence, don't you feel like we haven't really learned those lessons at all from Nazi Germany, from the Holocaust? And as a matter of fact, there is already one modern equivalent of such happening in real time that is causing people to completely shut that out?
Like those are the people who he is going to target in this administration.
Kathleen, obviously big news coming out of the Big Beautiful Bill, the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, which allocates tens of billions of dollars.
Athletically smart. Norman Finkelstein recently argued that Trump doesn't need fascism like the Nazis because he has no real opposition. He has a majority in Congress and controls the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts? He does have an opposition within the deep or bureaucratic state, and that's why he's purging it. So if you look at the early years of both the Bolsheviks and the fascists in Germany, it took them several years to consolidate power because they had to dismantle bureaucratic structures that were not loyal to the party. And there were a lot of court battles, which in the beginning the Nazis lost. There was hostile press in both early Nazi Germany as well as in the early years of the Bolshevik seizure of power, but gradually they were dismantled and destroyed. And I think that's the process that we're watching. So endemic within the bureaucratic structures, there are forces that seek or would like to obstruct the unilateral or dictatorial power that Trump and those around him are trying to achieve. And that's why we're seeing the assault on the deep state. And the replacement, well, there's two things going on. They're harvesting. They're firing lots and lots of people. That's, of course, about privatization. There's 1 million civilian employees and they working for the Pentagon. They would like to get rid of most of them, and then you contract out because that's how these corporations make money. I mean, it's interesting if you read Karl Marx, he talks about the late stage of capitalism.
How is it dictatorial to say illegal immigrants leave? Okay, I'm going to explain this. Foundational Americans aren't immigrants. Foundational African Americans. Oh, buddy. Oh, boy. Oh, I love that. We got a foundational African American defender in the chat. It's amazing. Oh, boy. Listen, I'm going to try to explain this to you very, very carefully. Okay. If there is no real harm being conducted by migrant workers and they are simply positioned as violent and simply lied about as contributing real harm to society, even though they're basically engaging in wage slavery. They are in legal limbo. They're directly considered second class, not even citizens, second class non-citizens in this country. Then don't you feel like all of this racist hysteria that is designed around the way that people look at undocumented migrants is identical to the way that foundational Black Americans were treated in this country historically? Don't you feel as though it is a one-to-one comparison almost? Not the machine of chattel slavery, of course, but at least like the enmity and the anger and resentment and the dehumanization that foundational Black Americans who were brought here as slaves and the lies that people told, the lies that white people told about Black people, that contributed to this resentment that many white Americans felt towards Black people. You feel like it's identical to undocumented migrants, and the very same enmity, the very same dehumanization will, of course, inevitably make its way to the prosecution of Black people as well, and it already has, for the record. Now that we are deciding, now that we've decided, we're going to take away the authorization of Haitian migrants that are in this country legally and start the deportation process of Haitians, that is opening the floodgates of ICE going to Black neighborhoods and illegally detaining Black people, whether they are foundational Black Americans or not. Don't you feel like that's going to happen? You can't see a world where that is absolutely going to happen. What's really interesting about foundational Black Americans as this like almost cultish way of thinking is that it is this complete reversal from the resentment that is sometimes demonstrated by first generation African migrants in this country, where a lot of people that come from African countries, African nations that are fresh off the boat per se, claim that they are of a different status and background than Black people, African Americans that have been living here for generations, okay? This is the exact reversal of that kind of mindset. But what many first generation African immigrants quickly realize is that in the eyes of the state, in the eyes of the white supremacist state, There is no difference between them and a black person that has been living here for generations that is a descendant of slaves. White supremacy dictates that the state doesn't see you as anything different, especially because the enmity and the anger or the resentment that the state has towards you is not born out of any sort of real logical conclusion. It's just a simple white supremacist superiority attitude that needs constant fucking the constant recycling of propaganda and stereotyping and dehumanization to justify itself, to justify its existence. You understand? There is no real reason for racism. It's just a successful tool that people in positions of power utilize to divide the working class. There is no true logic behind anti-black sentiment. There is no truth behind it. There's no like empirical evidence that you can point to. That's why racists will oftentimes try to engage in a logical justification, and historically they've applied eugenicist attitude to create a scientific reasoning for why there is a difference between black people and white people. That's why they've used now debunked science back then. Really saying Trump wants an America with white people only? Then what Eastern Europe versus Western Europe? It makes no sense. Well, I'm confused by what you're saying here. Yes, I do think that there are many in the Trump cabinet that want a white nation state, or at least they want to work towards that goal. And whatever steps they take in achieving that goal, if they get like, I don't know, 5 million people out or 1 million people out that are brown or black, that's good enough.